All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for being a part of this today. I don't know if you've been a part of these meetings in the past, but we've done this as I think the third year in a row that we've been doing this, and it's helped immensely. At least it's helped me. I know it's helped a lot of other people that I've heard from, but it helps me every single time we do this. I never have anything ready to go. So getting my head straight is really super helpful for me. And I hope that is the purpose for you guys. And I hope you get something out of this today. So just let you know a little bit about me. First of all, this is my 8th year teaching. I'm a teacher at El Dorado High School in the Digital Media Arts Academy. I teach of course, the graphic design pathway. And what I have to share for you guys now, obviously this is an open forum. This is going to be, we can talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. Usually the way that we start is we go over some, curriculum and just kind of look at what other people have, used for their curriculum. I've got actually a whole map that I've kind of laid out for this past year. I thought I'd run through it with you guys just to show you what I do. And then we can open it up and find out what you guys do. And then we could talk about, of course, project ideas, classroom management. If you guys have any questions of the group, of course, this is the opportunity. This is your opportunity. So that's what this is about. And I don't really have a cutoff, so we can go as long as you guys want. I'd like to cut it off maybe about 2 hours, but whatever. I don't have anything else planned today. So there you go. And just take you on a little quick tour of my classroom. It's pretty big. Wait, there's one side of it. Let me flip around the other side. There's the other side of it right there. All right. Anyway, so let's. What I'd like to do first of all is, if you guys know how to hit the hands up button. Everybody that is interested in the first year curriculum, like a basic fundamentals curriculum, hit that hand up button. Okay, good. We've got a lot of people interested in it. Okay, good. Excellent. All right, if you could take your hands down, just uncheck that. And then for I'm not going to talk about, we could absolutely talk about the second level, but I thought we'd talk about the first level and then maybe an honors level, and then have conversations about what could go in between. But is anybody interested in the advanced or honors conversation? Okay. The way that I deal with my honors class, my advanced and honors are in one period. They share the same period. That is my work-based learning class. So I'm happy to go over how I deal with work-based learning. I don't give them a single assignment to work on. I give them actual clients. And I spend my summer finding clients, and that's what they work on throughout the year. So I'm happy to go over that with you guys as well. Let's start at the very beginning. So first of all, before I go in, let me admit everybody else that's waiting there. Do we have any questions before I get started and talking, and then we'll open it up to the floor? But is there anything that you guys have any questions about at this point? It's okay if you don't. Okay.
Hi. Yes. Hey.
Yes. Oh, hi there. Yes.
Hi, Terry Smith, Tilton, New Hampshire, graphic design teacher. And I got in a little late, so I'm so sorry. You may have already covered this, but maybe I'd be so interested to discuss AI and how is everyone tackling that topic in the school year ahead, and how are you doing assignments? How are you diving into it in your classes? Are you still trying to avoid it? Could that be maybe a topic we talk about today?
Absolutely. In fact, I was asked to do a presentation on how to use ChatGPT for teachers. I've been using it a lot. Like over the past 6 months, I've used it a ton, and it's really helped. And it's evolved. There's so much more stuff that you can do with it. But yes, we can have that conversation for sure. Let me grab a piece of paper real quick. Get a pen. Okay, so we want to talk about AI. We'll talk about the fundamental class. Okay, before I begin, anybody else have anything you'd like to ask or say or contribute yet? If not, that's okay. Megan, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just another topic to throw out on the table. I know I have done a lot of project-based, work with my students, and that's usually the way I go about it. But I feel like with AI, it's becoming definitely way more critical thinking based. So I would just love to discuss how to make a shift from just giving them like projects and how to learn the software and to actually like helping empower them to critically think through things.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah, we can get into that as well in that same conversation. Okay, so let me just dive in. So this, let me go ahead and share with you. First of all, thank you so much for coming once again. Here are some norms. I'd appreciate it if you guys could have your cameras on. It certainly helps to see faces, right? If you don't like to be on camera, how are we going to have our kids do that? If we can't be on camera, how are we going to have our students do that? Not that we're doing Zoom anymore, but you never know. Anyway, so it's up to you. If I'd like to have your cameras on if possible. Definitely respect each other. If somebody's speaking, try not to talk over them. It'd be very difficult to hear you both anyway. Microphone's muted until I call on you. And like I said, this is an open forum. If you have anything you'd like to talk about, this is the place for it. So let me stop that share. And now what I'd like to do is jump into the chat there. People thinking cool. Yeah, okay, good. All right, so let me share my other screen and jump over to what I was talking about earlier, which is my curriculum. And I set this up 2 years ago now. And what you're looking at here is, and they've actually updated this. I use Padlet. If you probably use some kind of bookmarking system. Padlet is just as good as any of the others. Milanote is another one. But in any event, this is really, really cool. It gives us an opportunity to create a timeline, as you can see, and you can start it on either side, but it always loads from left to right. So what I did was I just sort of started all the way on the right-hand side with my June, and then you can see, oh wait, no, wait, let's see. Oh, I went backwards. Sorry, I did that backwards. In any event, you get the point. So what I've got here is each week I tried to put an agenda together that I could kind of follow. And I did for the most part. In fact, I went all the way to probably about here-ish when I started to kind of lose track of it. And then I started making things up on my own. But having this as a guideline to start was unbelievably helpful for me. Introduction, for instance, here, let me just open this up. You can see in that first week, I even have it broken down by day. You don't have to go that far, but it certainly does help. And you could have, what I suggest is you set up each week kind of like an idea of what you want to cover. When you get to that week, you figure out what you're going to talk about in the individual days. That's how I set that up. Pretty much. Let's see, let me move this out of the way. You can see how, okay. In any event, that is the digital design and illustration first year class. I've also got one for the visual communications class, which involves more history and more art theory and art history and stuff like that as well. Not just graphic design history. And then I've got one more here for the advanced and the honors class. Now, as I said, I don't really give them assignments, but I do need to cover things with them, such as how to fill out a creative brief, what a creative brief is, how you talk with clients, what are soft skills, all of that stuff needs to be handled up front, because pretty much right at the beginning of the year, I give them clients. I bring in clients like in the beginning of October, and that keeps them going throughout the year. So my goal for that one is to give them about 3 or 4 clients throughout the year. All right. And welcome everybody that just came in. Gil, I see you there. Thanks for coming. All right. Anyway, so let me jump over here. So I know I'm kind of jumping around a little bit. I'll try to keep my mind straight here, but this is just one part of how I keep myself organized. I also, let's see, let me go. And I'm going to throw a bunch of things at you guys. And then if you have questions, stop me. We'll talk about it. Let me go into my drive real quick. In the drive, I have laid out the same basic sort of timeline, but in a much easier way to view it. So, and I can share all of this stuff with you guys. I'll put it into the chat, and I'll give you the ability to download it and all of that. So if we go into digital design, we can take a look at the timeline. Here we go. And I tried to lay this out at the very beginning when I actually 8 years ago, I laid this out. And I based it on a book by Robin Landa is the author, and she does a book called Fundamentals of Graphic Design or something like that. And I essentially went through the book and took out the chapters and just kind of put it in order. And I actually took it out of her order because it wasn't in the order that I would like to teach it in. All right. But you can see here that I've laid out the whole year, and I've tried to break it down into, you know, easy kind of modules, easy to teach sort of modules. And I've listed where some of the projects are. And there you go. And that takes you right to the end of the year where they create their portfolio. And I have them working on portfolios right from the very beginning of, you know, the very day one when they come into my class, so that they have that going throughout the entire pathway. Are there any questions before I go on any further? I'm happy to share this with you guys. Let's see. Let me look in the chat real quick. I see there's a whole bunch going on here. Let me jump back up here. So links to the Padlets, I will put those in there. How do I cultivate clients? Well, you know what? Why don't we hold off on that until a little bit later? We'll get to the conversation about work-based learning, and I'll talk all about how I get my clients, how I organize my kids, my junior designers, not kids, sorry, but by that point, they're young adults. And oh, Brendan, thank you for putting a link in there. I appreciate that. Brendan put a link to some of my my Padlets in there. Feel free to go through and take whatever you want out of there. Does your district take a Padlet as your lesson plans? No. In fact, I can't remember the last time I actually wrote a lesson plan. I know that I learned that when I got my credential, but they've never asked me to one time write a lesson plan. So no. Does district, let's see, if they require lesson plans, pop your agenda in ChatGPT. Yeah, that's exactly right. So I do that with ChatGPT. If I need to create a lesson plan, I'll put all the details in there, and I've got some that I'll be happy to share with you that it's helped me out with. A little background on how much instructional time per week your classes get. What kind of schedule are you on? Okay, so Michelle, instructional time, that's actually really good. That's a great question. It's all over the place, really. In the beginning of the year, the way that my year goes, I'm sure you guys are kind of familiar with the way that this is. If there's a lot of lecture and a lot of instruction going on, by about the third month, I think my students are kind of on automatic. So they're working on a project and there's not a lot of lecture. It's just me wandering around, making sure they understand the program and, you know, doing the best that they can with it. And, you know, that's pretty much it. That's how my year goes. There are times when I stop and instruct and talk about stuff, but a lot of my classes are just hands-on, where they just get into it. They come in, everybody get right to work, and I'm wandering around helping them out. I like to start a lot of my class, maybe 2 or 3 days out of the week, with a video, less than 10 minutes long, something to keep them kind of get their mind working. But And what kind of schedule am I on? Well, I'm not sure what you mean by that, but the schedules we've actually shifted. We start now at 8:30 and end at 3:30. So I think, yeah. And what programs do I use? Okay, for my portfolios, when I start them out, I've tried everything. I've tried Wix. I've tried Adobe, you know, the website thing that they've got, which is horrible. It's terrible. Was it Adobe? No, it was Google. It was Google Sites. Terrible, really bad. Out of all of them, and I've tried them not only with my students, but I do this professionally. I am a graphic designer. And when I have people that need a website, I actually don't build sites anymore. I go to Wix, I set it up, and then I turn it over to them and they pay me. So I use Wix. It's the most professional. Not Wix, I'm sorry, Weebly, forgive me. It's the most professional looking and the easiest to use. And I'm happy to show you the back end of how Weebly works as well. But the kids get into it. They can set up a free site. They understand it very, very simply. It's very easy, and yeah, and it follows them throughout, you know, the 4 years. And then if they want, they can set up a whole new one. No, I'm sorry, forgive me. When I have them set it up, I use their own personal email so that when they leave, they can take the site with them. So I never have them set up their sites with their school email address. Otherwise, they won't be able to use it after they graduate. Let's see. And yeah, Carolyn used Wix for 10 years, and the free account upload limit is making that preventative. Oh yeah, I agree. I agree. Does anyone teach digital art under art and not CTE? That's an interesting question. Terry says, yes, my school is not CTE. I teach as an arts course. Okay. Okay. I'd love to hear about that. Do you teach digital art, or is it all hands-on or fine art? What kind of art do you teach, Terry?
I teach graphic design, digital photography, and filmmaking class. Our graphic design course, it's just an entry-level beginners course. We focus on building skills with Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign, a little bit of InDesign.
Interesting. It is interesting they're not calling that CTE, because it literally is career technical education. That's exactly what it is. But okay. And Amanda asked, do you have your students take the Adobe certifications? Yes. Actually, the way that we do that, I don't really like it, but we do it anyway. We are forced to make my second year students, the visual communications class, take, what do they take? Photoshop and Illustrator. The advanced class, they take InDesign. And the way that I do it is I set it up as the final, so they have to take it. Now, whether or not they actually pass, it's not something I hold to them. They actually, you know, they just have to attempt the test, and they can take it as many times as they want. We've got a contract with, you know, the Certiport for like 500, I guess. I'm not sure what the number is, but we got a lot. And so that's more than enough to go around. And some of my students have taken the test a couple of times. I had one student who took Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, and Premiere and passed them all last year. A little bit of an overachiever.
Yeah, the reason why I asked is because my setup is academy. So we teach, the first year is Photoshop, Illustrator, second year is Animate, Dreamweaver, third year is Premiere and After Effects, and fourth year is work-based, project-based learning. So everything has to be crammed into 1 year for 2 programs. So we have to use, our curriculum is Brain Buffet, which is, I don't know if anyone else uses it, but I hate it. But I'm a graphic designer of 23 years, and then I went into teaching. So trying to teach them, it's been hard because I want to teach them the fun stuff, but I'm teaching based on where they have to take the certification. They have to, they have 6 chances, 3 for Photoshop and 3 for Illustrator. So first semester is Photoshop and second is Illustrator.
You
So
you threw
it,
Dreamweaver in there too. You teach Dreamweaver? Oh my gosh.
yeah, and the reason why is because it's a bundle, and with funding, Cape funding,
Yeah.
Animate and Dreamweaver, so they have to learn both because Photoshop has already done their first year in the
And
academy.
Animate and Dreamweaver are both, they're wildly different purposes and different programs too. So I know them both, but I haven't used them both in a long time. That's really interesting though.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. So
That is, yeah, wow. I feel
yeah,
for
I
you.
just wanted, I just want to do more fun things than the brain buffet, but I have to use that because it's directly to the test, which I absolutely hate to teach
Yeah.
to the testing, but that's what's required right now. So
Wow.
yep.
Okay. That
Yep.
scares me a little bit because I think that would not give you the opportunity to really dive into anything too deeply. You have to switch pretty quickly. Once
Right.
they learn
They're
something, okay, we're going to learn something new.
Yeah, and they absolutely hate it, and I can't be more hands-on with them like I want to be because of it. And but their fourth year is when we do the project base and all that, so I have more time to do things with them. So
Right.
yep.
Right.
Yep.
Let me stop this share real quick and just let me push back over. So let me go back to the chat, see if I missed anything. No, I think if there's anybody else that needs that I've missed, please just unmute and speak up. Let's see. Okay. All right, at this point, I guess we can open up the floor. So I've kind of covered sort of what I do. I absolutely will share this timeline with you. In fact, I'm going to put that into the chat right now. Let me share it with everybody in the meeting. This is for digital design and illustration, which is my first year class. And that's this one. I'm going, and I know, Brendan, you already put them in there. I'm just going to put them in anyway. And thank you for doing that. Or you probably put in the overview of the media arts resources, which is cool too. So that is the timeline that I use. I'm also going to put in there the spreadsheet that I put together. Let me share that with you guys as well. Copy the link. Pop that in there. Okay, those are the first year classes. I will share also my advanced, visual communications. Here's visual communications. Viscom. And then the third one, which is the advanced and the honors, which is that one right there. Advanced honors curriculum, BARM. There you go. Okay. I'm sorry, these are not curriculum. These are the timeline, kind of based on my curriculum. All right. So let's see what else. Let's go over, I guess, okay, we went over the fundamentals sort of a little bit here and there, and we can certainly, I can answer more questions about that if you like, but I can jump right into my conversation or the conversation about the advanced and honors and talk about how I deal with getting clients and all of that. I know not everybody in here deals with advanced or honors or work-based learning, but to be quite honest with you, I highly recommend if you don't, you should consider it, at least trying to talk your school into letting you try this with your advanced students or maybe with the next year students. It's really, really helpful. Let's see, 404 error. Well, I'll fix that. Okay, Michelle, use Padlet, make one for each class. The kids are invited to it. I do that too. All right, and then Brendan, Padlet really is a great tool for my district. Your district pays for it. That's nice. Okay. All right, so let's jump in here. As I said, the advanced and honors, where do we want to start on that one? Let me share my screen once again. This one right here. Okay. So for the advanced and honors class, let me just start it this way. Let me turn on my air conditioning. Sorry. Okay, so the way that I do this, I'll just go back to the beginning. When I started the advanced class, I was given a curriculum that I didn't like. It was really bad. It was just an advanced version of the basic class. And by the time they get to the third year class, just giving them more assignments didn't make any sense. I wanted them to prepare a portfolio to get ready for the world because they're about to graduate. So I just thought, well, why not just give them an actual client? And I tried it the first year and it was unbelievably successful. We had so much of a request for it. I had about 35 clients that whole year. Each student had 2 or 3 projects to work on. It was great. And in fact, let me go over and show you our website and show you some of the, I call it Design Rescue. Wait, EHS. Design Rescue. And there's the last class that I had right there. And you can see some of the portfolio. I mean, it's professional work. I would not allow work to leave the class if it wasn't professional, if it didn't meet my own standards as a graphic designer. And in fact, I've had some kids that created some projects that I wouldn't let leave. And in fact, I had them do it all over again, working with them as an art director. So I would literally direct them and I'd give them my sketches on the project and let them just say, here, use this as your guide. And I sort of guide them through the whole project. So that does happen, but I want them to be prepared. And I want them to be ready to go. You know, so you can see like we've got all kinds of different projects. We've got brochures. I even had somebody work on a wine label, and that's okay because they're not drinking the wine, they're just doing the design. We did t-shirt designs for a local, you know, the Taste of Yorba Linda, and so on. And this, some of them got to do projects like this one was for Fern Drive Elementary School. So this will live for decades, hopefully longer. You know, this kid's already out of the school, so it'll be here for many, many years to come. Oh, and one last one. This was my son who did this one. He just graduated last year. And I've never heard of salt therapy, but yes, it's a thing, at least here in Southern California. So lots of things are a thing here in Southern California. All right. What is the timeline for each work-based learning project? Does it differ? That's a great question. So the way that I work it out is I kind of base it off of my own, like I said, my own work life. So if we get a logo project, typically I like my students to be done with that logo within 3 weeks. I don't want them, I mean, you would not, in the real world, you wouldn't let that sort of thing linger. You go longer than a month on a logo project, you're just going way, way too long. And I want them to feel that pressure. So personally, I call myself a logo designer because that's really what I do. I've got like 75 or 80 logos that I've done over the past 20 years or so. And I've gotten to the point where I can knock out a logo in a week or 2, but I don't want to put my own abilities on them. And that's how I started the whole thing. I actually started by telling them you have to be done in 2 weeks, but 3 weeks is long enough. That's actually a good time frame. Now that's logos. If you're doing a brochure, it could be a little bit, it would be a little different. It depends on what they're doing. I had somebody working on a booklet that was a 35-page like program. And that one I gave them 3 months to work on. And they needed it. They needed every single moment of that because they only have an hour a day in my class. Which brings me to another topic. When you have an advanced and honors class working on work-based learning, I know we can't mandate homework, but we've got to instill on them that this is a sort of thing that they need to do in their spare time. You need to put in as much time as they can. This is a real live project, and they got to take it. They take it on like that. Okay, you got somebody's business in the palm of your hand. You know what I mean? So Kim says, do the clients pay? How do you handle payment process? I do not ask for payment. I've been afraid to. I could. I've never wanted to because I don't know how to deal with it, and I just don't want to deal with money. My students have never asked for money, so I've never offered it to them. It's always just for the experience. Although I have set up a donors choose, and what I like to do is send that out to everybody else. I'm sorry, everybody, all the clients, and if they want to contribute, they can put money into the donors choose. All right. Or if there's something specific, like I need 100 t-shirts, I might say, yeah, I could use some t-shirts. There you go. So they do like to contribute. Lisa, so you had enough clients for each student to stay busy and you have enough projects to grade. Yeah, that is the trick. This past year, I added something different. I added some passion projects. So when they're done with their clients or they're in between clients, they have something to work on. I don't know if I'm going to do that this year, to be honest with you. I'm not sure how that's going to work because I didn't really feel like they dove into these passion projects with all the passion that I thought they would. So maybe it wasn't, maybe, I don't know. I have to think about that. But I'm open to suggestions if anybody else has any thoughts on that. Terry, so you mentioned that you give your advanced students 3 to 4 clients a year. If they're required to finish the logo in 3 weeks, what else do they work on in the class throughout the year? Yeah, well, I mean, that's a great question. Generally speaking, I like to sort of bump up a client right up against another client. So if I can, when they're done, the following week, they get into the next client. What do they do in the meantime? That's where the passion projects come in. Yeah, that's where you turn your attention to the greeting cards you were working on. I had one student who was working on a board game. So she made characters. She came up with the whole idea for the game. It was really great, actually. I wish I could have actually produced it for her. But so yeah, I mean, passion projects, they've sort of helped me along the way. Like I said, I'm not sure how to deal with it this year. I want them to be the author of their passion projects. And what I did this past year is I gave them a whole list of different things they could choose from. And I think just doing that alone, it took the authorship out of them, out of their lap. So like I said, I'm still thinking about it. Megan, does this include revisions? That's a great question. Yeah, it does include revisions. I use, in fact, let me show you. This is what I use, Fiverr Workspace. And I have my students actually set up an actual proposal that includes, let me get us in here. There we go. Now this is actually my own personal, oh wait, no, it's not. I signed into the wrong one. That's okay. You can get an idea of what it is. So with this, you get up to 3 different clients at a time. No, I'm sorry. With a free account, you get 1 client at a time, but that's okay. They can easily just delete the client and then put in a new client. And then what you do here is you go create proposal and an invoice. We put in, let's say it's a logo project, right? Choose the client, client name, whatever, proposal and contract. We then put in the services, be a logo design. And then down here, what I do is I always have them put in up to 3 rounds of revisions, right? And then whatever else we want to put in there. And then the billing schedule, we leave it at 0. But you can, just so you can see, this is what I do as a professional. I would put in, let's say I charge $2,000 for a logo. I'd put in 50% here, and then it would give me the amount that the deposit is, which would be $1,000. And then I make it so that they have to pay that deposit before I start working. And I tell that to my students, that's all part of the deal. But for them, there's no money exchange. So they just go ahead and create the contract. And you can see it gives them a proposal that they sign. confirm the signature. Once they have that, it literally gives you all the legalese that you need. On my contracts, I like to make a couple of changes here, but I just have them go straight in. Let me close that, continue. And then it sets up an email and sends that email to the client where they get to see the proposal, and then they sign it digitally. And once the student gets the receipt of that digital signature, they start work. And this whole thing is, I mean, it all just kind of disappears after that. Nobody pays attention to this stuff once they start work. This is just to get them, straight about what is a proposal, what is in a contract, and all of that. So that's what I use this for. Now, Carolyn, how do you make the projects equitable across students so that they're all doing the same amount of work? I don't. It's never going to be equitable. I mean, we've got some clients that come in with a 65-page booklet, and other clients that come in, with a single trifold, right? So there's no way to make it equitable. They get the project that they get. But the way that I do it is I take into account their skills, because I've been with these students for 3 years already, or 2 years already. And I look at them individually, I see what are their skill sets, and I try to match the clients with their skill sets. So, as much as possible. It's not always possible, but I try to do that. I also will ask them, like, I'll meet with each student individually, and I'll give them the whole list of my clients, of the clients and the projects. And then I will ask them to choose, are there any of these that you would like to take on? So, that's basically how I deal with that. And Marcella, I forgive me if I mispronounced your name. How do you get your clients? Let's see. I'll deal with that in just one second. Okay, so how I get my clients, I do all the work, all the legwork. I don't let my students, at first, actually this past year, I was going to have my students do all of the research, go out and make all the contact and find their own clients. But my boss asked me not to do that. We want to make the connection with the community before the client actually gets here to talk with the client, with the student, for whatever reason, I guess for safety reasons. So, I spend my summers just emailing, and where do I find them? A couple of different places. I use Facebook. I will, first of all, just ping all of my friends and family and see if they have anything going on. I belong to a couple of different groups in my area. And you guys probably have the same thing somewhere nearby. If you just type in the word buzz, you'll find groups that are like the OC Buzz group. We've got thousands of people in Orange County that join this. There's another one called Orange County Buzz. So there's OC, there's Orange County, and then each city has their own, like, a buzz group. I don't know why they call it buzz, but that's what they do. For Orange County, I think one of those groups, we've got like 20 or 30,000 people in there. Another one, I've got 10,000 people in there. So just posting a message, along with the link to the website that I shared with you guys, which is, where is it? Over here. And I just say, we're doing free graphic design. If you guys, if anybody needs logos, if anybody needs brochures or whatever, and to be quite honest with you, I'll get a dozen responses right away. And that's one way that I do it. Another way that I do it is I'll walk door to door. You can go to the restaurants nearby, go to the little shops around your school, walk door to door and just let them know what you do. We've got students that are learning graphic design and they want to do real work for you. And that's basically how I approach that. Let's see.
Hey, David, I have a quick question for you.
Yes, Natalie.
Do you ever have students take on a client that you then have to kind of create a final work for because the students just are not quite either meeting the deadline or meeting your expectations to then be able to give to a real client.
Yes. Well, not specifically where I actually end up doing the work in the end. I try to avoid that as much as possible. There was one client who was not happy at all with the work. And in the very end, it was just like we just had to part ways. I just let them go. But you know, generally speaking, I don't like to put my hands in the mix. What I will do though, if I do have clients like that, after the fact, I'll email them and say, I'm a professional designer. If you need my help, I will charge you, but I'm happy to help you out. On that note though, I can only probably count those on one hand. In the 6 years that I've been doing, can't remember, five years that I've been doing this now. Yeah, so if it gets to the point where the client is just not happy at all, we back up a step. I go back to the beginning of the whole process. They follow the creative process, which is something that I have them learn from the very beginning of their time in my classes. The creative process, in fact, I can share with you how I keep track. Where am I? Oh yeah, schoolwork, classes, here we go. So if we go over to my sign-off sheets, you will see my favorite one is the logo design one. There we go. It's a sign-off sheet, and I base this on my experience as a designer. We had, you know, when I was a designer in an agency, they had these sign-offs, right? And so with every department that touches it, you got to sign off on it. And so I kind of got that that idea from that process. But the creative process is something we have to teach them anyway. There's the research, the ideation, refining the sketches, getting feedback, executing the design, and then testing it, making sure it works, and the final delivery. That is the process. And so I make sure that my students are following that process throughout the whole project. And in the advanced class, in Design Rescue, if we get to a point where the client just doesn't get it, they don't understand it, or they don't like it, we got to jump back to the ideation stage, possibly even go back to the research stage. So, you know, I work with them in that context. I have them work on the creative process and get that in their bones so they understand, you know, how to deal with that. Let's see. Do I vet them prior to assigning to students? Yeah, I think I covered that. So I have them, yeah, I meet with the clients ahead of time, just by phone, pretty much, just to make sure that they understand what they're getting into. And then I try not to give them too much information, because I want the students to give them all the information that they need. The student is responsible for guiding the whole consultation, explaining everything to them, and executing the work, and then bringing the client back in to do the final presentation. So it's all on the students. I'm there as a coach, pretty much. The name of the proposal app, great question. Just go to Fiverr. You go to workspace.fiverr.com, Fiverr. If you're not familiar with Fiverr, Fiverr has had a really, really bad name in the design industry, because not what I'm talking about here, not the Fiverr workspace, but the original Fiverr was a place where you could go to get somebody to do a logo design or do anything literally for like $5. Like, why? Why? So anyway, Fiverr was something we all hated as designers. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but Fiverr Workspace is different. This is something that I use professionally, and I highly recommend you guys do the same thing. And yeah, Fiverr, and let's see. Have an agreement on the terms you set with the clients before agreeing with the work to work with them. Timeline, understanding. Yeah, that's all covered in the consultation. So So yeah, I cover all that stuff in the consultation, or I have my students cover it. In fact, what I do is I give them a list of a page of things to ask. I'm happy to share that with you guys as well. Let's see here. Let me jump over. All of this stuff that I'm sharing with you, I will make it available either in the chat here or in our group. Either way, let's see, that would be Design Rescue, client consultation process, questions to ask in the initial consultation. And what I've done here is I literally just give them a list of questions, who's target market, what is, see, it's sort of an idea. About here are a bunch of questions to ask about the company, about the target audience, all of that stuff. This is what I use to, or what I have them use to help prepare the creative brief. And yes, I will absolutely share the sign-off sheet. I will share everything that I've shown here. Let's see. Let me look at this one. Oh yeah, this is a better one, actually. I've even separated out, we got a question that would be good to, I had students asking, how will you judge the success of your project? And that is actually a really good question to ask. How are you going to know whether this brochure that I'm making for you did the trick? That's what that means. But it doesn't make sense to ask that for a logo project. So only for certain projects, you would ask that. And then other questions that are, like I said, only good for logo projects to ask, and so on. Let's see here. I will absolutely share those sign-off sheets. I will, let's see. What is that? A drive link. Yep, I'll share that as well. Okay, all right. You guys have any other questions for you? And I'll start putting these links together. I'll put them into the, let's see, let me grab the share, make sure that's a shareable. Should be anybody with the link. This is the what to ask clients in a consultation. That's that one. This is the sign-off sheet. I'm actually gonna not share the editable sign-off sheet. I'm going to share the sign-off sheet that I've got. That's a PDF. Let's see, sign off. And I use the logo design one as a basis because it's got everything that you need. Let's see, share. And you just change some of the criteria as needed. So this is the sign off sheet. There you go. This one, I think somebody said that the link wasn't working. I'm gonna, which one was that? Sorry, hold on a minute. Digital design and illustration timeline. Okay. And then Fiverr, I'll put a link to that if you guys want in there as well. This is Fiverr Workspace. Okay, and just for the heck of it, I'll throw in my Design Rescue if you guys want to see my portfolio, the Design Rescue portfolio. There's that. All right.
David, quick question.
Yes.
I was just taking notes, and I know we were talking about this as your advanced class, but you said it starts year 3. So I'm assuming you have another advanced class or level 2 in between.
I do. I've got visual communications is my 2nd year class, and that one is right here. In visual communications, it's a step up from digital design, where they're more advanced projects. And it is the class that helps them get prepared to start taking clients in the advanced and honors class. So that's what I use the visual communications for, to prepare them for the more advanced class. But essentially, visual communications is really about it's about art history, it's about graphic design history, and you know, like typesetting and things like that. Kind of, it's really more about the visuals and everything. It was once explained to me once before as visual communications is making the visuals speak more than text. So I do a lot of illustrative projects, but I do need them to learn typesetting and, you know, InDesign and all that stuff to get them ready for the advanced class and the honors. So did I put this in there? I'll put a link to this one as well for you guys. This is the visual communications timeline. Oops. Everyone, there we go. All right. Okay, now we can jump back if you guys have any other questions about some of the other, like the digital design class. If you guys want to talk about projects or assignments that you're interested in, or if you have something you'd like to share, I can kind of go through a little bit of what I do if you're interested. But the floor is open if you guys have any questions. Let's see if there's anything else I'd like to throw at you. Color theory, definitely something that to be honest with you, color theory is something that I spend about 2 weeks on at the most. I should spend a lot more time on that, but things like typography, color theory, you know, layout and composition, those are touched on throughout the year, like with every single project. So I really I don't focus on some areas. I spread that out, you know, throughout the year, but that's just me. That's just kind of how it's worked for me. Let's see. There's Christmas break.
I have a quick question. I
Yeah,
put
Kim.
it in the chat, but do you articulate with any community college?
Oh, that's a great question. We do. I don't personally, I don't get involved in that, but we do as a department, Fullerton Community College, and I think is the one. I don't know why we're not hooking up with others, because we got them all around us, but just one college is the only one that I've heard of that we do.
But your students don't get college credit for your class?
No, everything is, we get college credit. Yeah, everything is what do they call that? Oh my gosh, I knew this would come up. We're F is the
No,
what do they-
what I mean is that
Yeah.
it's not considered a college class, so they don't earn
Right.
high school
Oh no, they
credit
don't get
and
credit for
college
taking
credit?
my class. No, they
Okay, got it. Thank you.
don't. Yeah.
They're trying to push a lot of us that way.
Is that
And
right?
Yeah. Well, down
How
in
would that
like,
work? You would have to teach a college level class, right?
yes,
Oh my.
yeah,
Kim, I
And
can answer any questions about articulation if you have them. I'm articulated.
there you go.
I articulate with one school, a local community college. They won't let us articulate with more than one. And I think it has to do with the agreement between community college and because they compete with each other. So I think it has to do with they're a little sensitive as far as I've discovered. And so we are only allowed to articulate with one because it's like, they won't let me, even though I have classes that school doesn't offer that another school does. It's a whole thing. It's depending on who's managing it, your district can be a giant pain in the butt. It can also be a huge sales piece because it's not the same as dual enrollment where your physically taking a community college class at the high school. It's rather like, hey, my syllabus and your syllabus are the same. So by taking my year-long course, you're effectively taking that semester-long course. And so, I mean, as long as you're teaching the same things that that community college is teaching and you've come to an agreement with that teacher or professor, it can be a hugely, I mean, it's a simple process. It's a form that the kids have to fill out and get their parents to sign if they're under 18. They have to register for that community college as a student, even if they're never planning on attending that school, because they have to assign the credits to some account.
Yeah.
And so that freaks kids out. They're like, but I'm not going there. And you're like, you never have to step foot on that campus. It's okay. You can still be a junior and register. But once they assign it to an account, then that student can request a transcript and have it sent to any university. And it can transfer in. I think it's better than AP credit because there's no test that you have to take. There's no portfolio you have to submit. It's free. So to me, it's better than AP credit. However, it can be a pain. Somebody asked me if I have a master's. I have a master's in teaching. I don't have a master's in, like, I don't have an MFA, which is why I can't do dual enrollment, but I can do articulation. So that's my 2 cents there.
Carolyn, do you work closely with I'm assuming it's graphic design that you articulate. Do you work closely with the professors at the college?
I've tried so hard to, and they want nothing to do with me, and that's cool.
Okay, that's what I'm finding. Like,
yes, and I've asked to, like, hey, we want to share curriculum. I don't need your exact project. I just want to know that I'm teaching the things. I don't ever want one of my students to go there and be like, oh, we got one of those kids again, because they've taken an advanced level, and it's like, that's, I don't know. But they will share their syllabus. That is it. And they share the agreement that somebody long before me built on a class that probably doesn't exist anymore. And every couple of years, somebody at my district says, hey, sign it. The agreement's been updated. And I go, okay. And I sign it and I move on.
Great. Thank you for answering that question.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that, Carolyn. I appreciate that. Okay. We got a couple of different topics to jump into. I'd like to talk about AI, but before we do that, let me see if I missed anything in the chat. Do you have course fees for your digital classes? If so, what do the students get with this fee? We don't charge a single thing. I can't. I'm not allowed to. The school provides everything that they need. In fact, I also have, with the CTE-IG funding that we get, I purchase my students. Hello, wait a minute. Let me get my camera back over here. I always purchase sketchbooks for my students, and I get the best kind, the hardcover sketchbooks. So I provide free sketchbooks to them whenever possible. Yeah, so there is that. Let's see. Okay, also get sketchbooks. Yep, awesome. Dual enrollment this year. My master's is in teaching. Oh, I see. Awesome. Okay, so let's get into the Chat GPT. All right. There are different things that you can do with AI. I tried a bunch of the different, like, image, like text to image generation. Wait, hold on. I'm not waving at you. I'm waving at my own thing. There we go. I have this webcam that actually will follow me. There we go. All right. Anyway, so I've used the text to image generators, Midjourney, DALL-E, those sort of things. They are horrible. They're terrible. They're not taking our jobs. Graphic designers are solid. We're good for at least another decade, I think. Although I do use them to help generate, inspire me for ideas. But ChatGPT has been a game changer, like literally a game changer for me. You could put anything, you get any kind of information in there that you want. I pay the $20 a month. So I get the GPT-4, and you get the plugins now, which this is a new thing. Plugins you can add to the agent, I guess what they call it, so that when you do your search, it uses these plugins to help find more information. So let me pull up one that I did. For instance, dog diet expert advice. And now this was for my dad. Okay. My parents are killing their dog. They're feeding their dog McDonald's, and I wanted to tell them to stop. So what I did was, what you do is you give ChatGPT a persona. To be honest with you, I don't know why, but yeah, I think it helps to focus the system to find the right kind of information. So you tell it, you are a veterinarian specializing in diets for dogs. You've been in the industry for over 20 years, helping pet owners create meals for their pets. And then I, hit enter, and there it started to give me some information, right? And then I asked it, we have a miniature pincher that's 4 years old. I know this isn't teaching related, but I'm just showing you an example. Right? And it goes in, it gives you more information. Okay. So let me give you something that's a little bit more specific to what we're talking about here. I wanted to come up with, let's see, let me find a good one. Oh yeah, art lectures for kids. Okay, let's go all the way to the top. Wait a minute, sorry. Okay. Started off with, you are an elementary school art teacher. You've been teaching art for 20 years to grades 2 through 8. Now I did this because I'm teaching summer school. I wanted to get some ideas for what to do. I mean, I know how to teach it. I've got things that I've taught, but I put all of this information in here, and the more data that you give it, the better. And I told it I wanted to create a 300 to 700, word lecture on specific topics. And do you understand? It said, yes, I understand. And then I asked it to give me, ask me questions, clarify anything you need clarified before you give me the answer. And it said, okay, and here it is. And it asked me, for the elements of art and design, are there specific elements you want me to focus on? Similarly, are the principles of art and design, are there specific principles that you want me to emphasize? And then you just answer those questions. And then it gives you, here it is, lecture number 1. Hello, young artists. Today we're going to explore blah, 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 blah. And it gives you the lecture. And there it is. And then continue, and it goes on. There's lecture number 2. Continue, there's lecture number 3. It is amazing. I mean, it's like I said, mind-blowing every single time that I use this. Now, I wanted to come up with, so a couple of weeks ago, I went into the ROP office. They asked me to work on the visual communications curriculum so that we can get it UC approved. That's what I was trying to say earlier. All of my classes are UC approved, so they're acceptable at the universities. Here it is, the visual communications curriculum. And I started by saying, you're a visual communications professor. You've been teaching design for 30 years. You are asked to define the visual communications curriculum for a high school 10-month program, right? And so on. And it pumped out a curriculum, and there it is. And I think that one, it was just a basic kind of just a single question that I had, but let me go a little further here. Let's see, get a different one. Poster design prompts. All right, suggestions for high school 9th grade. Now this one, I didn't give it a persona. I just pumped in a question, and let's see what it came up with. Suggestions for high school 9th grade end of the year poster design assignments. Students will use Adobe Photoshop and/or Illustrator to create a poster. I would like you to provide me with some prompts to help students decide on a topic for their poster design. And you can see right there, climate change awareness, favorite book or movie, local community event, historical event. I mean, all of this came up. Now, notice that it says 2 of 2 right there. The reason it says that is because at the end of each one, this button that says regenerate the response, I could hit that and give it, and here it's going to come up with even another option. It might just refine the words or the options and give me new options. There, my future career, climate change awareness is there again, promote a local event, literary exploration, and so on, music genre, right? Food festival. Now it's going even further. Healthy lifestyle, endangered species, right? There it is, right before your very eyes. And then it tells you, remember to remind your students that the goal of the assignment is not only to demonstrate their technical skills, but to communicate in a clear and compelling message throughout the design. Okay, let me give you one more. Let's see. Okay, now I am actually writing a book. I decided to write a book, and I used ChatGPT to get started. I did this here, Dragon Learns Design. I wanted to create a graphic design book with the main character that's a dragon that goes around and learning about graphic design by learning about real people like Paula Scher, Saul Bass, Chip Kidd, and all of these people would be infused into the story somehow. So what I did was, let's see, there's a lot here. Wait a minute, hold on. Come on. Let me get it all the way to the top. Okay. And I started with, you're an award-winning children's book author, right? And you've worked for 20 years, blah, 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 blah. And I went on and on and on. I got it to write several chapters of the book. It even spelled it out here, give me an outline. I did it little by little, and I got fairly far. But here's where I hit the limitation. ChatGPT has a limitation on the number of words that it can remember. So you'll notice I go all the way to the very bottom here. I did a lot of work, and then it started changing character names. Like it started forgetting plot points and started changing the storyline. And at that point I was like, I'm lost. I'm totally lost. So it developed out of about like 12 chapters. It wrote 9 of my chapters. So what I did with that was I actually went out and I hired a ghostwriter who's helping me finish it up. So she took all of this work and is just going to go through it, clean it up, make the character development work and all of this. She's working with me to finish it, basically. And not only that, one of my advanced, my honors students is doing the illustration work. So there you go. And yeah, and our goal is to have it done by like the end of September, maybe October. But it's amazing. It's amazing what you can do with this ChatGPT. You guys have any questions about it or anything? I can give you some more details. Well, let's see. Let me jump into the chat here. Have you heard of Imagine AI? Yeah, I've heard of that. Or Imogen AI. I have heard of that one. You put in photos, you've edited and grab your style, and then you can upload raw images and they'll adapt your style to the raw images within minutes. It is really cool. It is really, really cool.
Are you having students use it in class for their brainstorming?
I didn't. I want to this year. I do want to do it because it is a thing and it's something we're not going to be able to avoid. The English teachers, they've got their hands full, obviously, because the kids can use this to cheat easily. But I'll be honest, when we're doing a package design project, and if I want them to come up with text or something for the front panel of that package, I'm not teaching them creative writing. So I would absolutely have them use ChatGPT to come up with the block of text that they can use in whatever they're creating. So I have no problem with that. So yeah, this year I'm going to try to get access. I don't know what kind of access the kids will have to it. So that's another issue. But I'm going to try to get them to utilize it. There is another option. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but Bing, let's see if I've got Bing in here. Let me just open up Microsoft Edge. Yeah, it's Microsoft Edge, and I don't have it loaded just now, but in Microsoft Edge, it literally has ChatGPT built into it. So you can actually sign in and use ChatGPT to help you search in Bing. So there are lots of different ways you can do this. Now, as far as the image generation, like Dolly, Mid-Journey and those, I am not going to bother with that because the stuff that comes out of that stuff is just not good enough. And I don't want them to lean on that. I want them to generate ideas on their own. ChatGPT though is another thing. Jennifer says, ChatGPT just had it write a logo design. Yeah, right. A logo design proposal. There you go. Plug in the stuff that your client wants and say, write me a proposal. Bam. Right. Yeah, it's great. It's great stuff. There are tons of other things that you can do with it. You can have it write contracts. You know, all kinds of stuff. Add units. Here's another lesson plan that I had it create, which was, now you can see I gave it a ton of information here to come up with an advertising unit. And then I asked, now this is the tricky part. You give it the information, then you ask it if it understood what you said, and then say, type yes if you do. If not, ask probing questions, and it will ask you whatever questions it needs to ask. Yeah, letters of recommendations. There you go. That's another one. Thank you, Megan. I love that aspect of it, although sometimes it comes out kind of not sounding too human. So you got to kind of fix it. But I do that too. I get my students asking for letters of recommendation all the time, and I'll just plug in the information that I know about them and then have it rewrite that information in something that sounds good. Yeah, I absolutely do that. See if I've got one that I can pull up. Letter of recommendation, maybe not, but anyway, I've done so many of them, I can't remember. Anyway, they're there somewhere. Anybody else have any other questions or anything else you want me to cover or that you'd like to cover?
Can I ask you about
Carolyn, that's great. That's great. If a parent sends you a nasty email, copy and paste in ChatGPT. That's a great response. I would totally do that. Yeah. Oh boy. Scheduling. Yeah, it could absolutely help you with scheduling. Khan Academy is for education. Yeah, Khan Academy is another resource. I used it a while ago, but they charge for that, I think, right? So I kind of stopped. But it absolutely is a great resource. If you're looking for ideas for projects, also if you check out Skillshare, or not just projects, but for lectures, check out Skillshare. That's another thing, by the way. Let me show you here. Let me open up a new chat in my ChatGPT and go into the plugins. Now they've disabled some of the plugins because I think it was grabbing like too much information from, I don't know what's going on. But anyway, the paraphraser, this will take the text that you put in and paraphrase it and, you know, give you a more human-like text. High perplexity is another one. There are two things that you look at, is perplexity and something else is I can't remember. Perplexity is the way that ChatGPT takes text and makes it sound human. So like you'll find that if you ask it to retype something, it'll give you a whole bunch of really big words that it just does. I mean, they're human words, they're English, but it just doesn't sound normal. So high perplexity will replace some of those big words with normal, everyday conversational English. Oh, video insights. That's a good one. Let me show you that. So with video insights, you could literally go in and have it take a look at a video. Let me find a video real quick. I think if it works the way that I think it is. And if we take, here we go. I'll take this one. Let's get the, copy that right there. Go in. Let me close that down. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Here it is. And I'll say here, summarize this video. Video insights. And it's looking through the, I don't know what it's looking through. If it's looking through the video itself, or there you go. The video begins with the author explaining the use of Adobe's generative fill tool, blah, 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 on and on and on. There you go. And not only can you do this, you can then take this. I can then have GPT create a list of questions, like if you wanted to quiz your students on that video. So let's get that ready. Let's say write 10 questions. Let's see, wait. What would it be? A quiz based, sorry. All right, what's the name of the new tool in Adobe Photoshop? And there it is, bam. It's unbelievable. I love this stuff. Right? And there you go, right? The wave warp effect. Sometimes it throws in things that doesn't make much sense. Like here's, I mean, it gave you a multiple choice, so it had to come up with something. The turbulence displacement effect. Right? What effect was used to add movement to a tree in the animation? And whatever they did, I have no idea. Probably the wave warp effect, I would imagine. Anyway, there you go. Let's see, Brendan, try to use Pear Deck. You know, I have stuff in there. I've never gotten into it. And oh, okay, cool. Yeah, there you go. How do you get kids to pay attention during lectures? Megan, that's a great question. I try not to speak longer than 10 minutes at any given time. That's one way. Another way is I try to, the way that I look at myself is I'm a performer. I mean, when I'm up there, I'm on stage. So it's really my job to keep their attention. So if they're falling asleep, I'm not keeping their attention. And it could be just in the way, the monotone sound of my voice, or it could be that I'm not giving them anything that they are able to understand. You know, maybe they just don't understand and they just like turn off their brain. That's always a possibility. Invite them into the conversation. That's always something that I try to do as much as possible. Get them to answer questions or contribute to the conversation. Sometimes that's tough to do, but if they're falling asleep, that is a sign that maybe you just need to take a break. And I did this last year, and I actually did this a couple of times. And I wish that we do it every single day, but I had my students stop halfway through the class, stop, everybody stand up. Let's see, hold on. I'm not waving at you. Let's see if my camera was gonna, hold on. There we go. Okay, come on, follow me. There we go. All right, stand up, put your hands up, reach, stretch, do all that kind of stuff, right? Stretch, do whatever you want to do. All right, and then take a couple deep breaths, do this a few times, just whatever, get moving, get some blood flow going. All right, walk in a circle. All right, and then everybody sit back down, take like just 60 seconds. I swear to God, that changes everything. It makes their, turns on their brain, gives them a little bit more energy. Like I said, I wish that I did that every single day. I started to do it, but it kind of got a little, like, okay, let's stand up again. Got a little weird, So I gave them the ability, whenever you want, stand up. You don't have to ask to get out of your seat. Go walk around the room. I don't care. Get up, get your blood flowing, right? Let's see. My students have an audience grade. I try to walk around on audience grade. What is that? Ask students for feedback on your lectures. Yeah, there you go. An audience grade, they get graded for paying attention. Is that what you mean? That's really interesting.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, there you are. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just a little leverage. It's nothing major, but it's a grade that goes on their rubric for like bigger projects. So I just let them know that I'm keeping an eye out for them as time goes on. But you kind of have to do a combination of things to keep the sleepers' heads up, if you know what I mean. So.
Right. Yeah, right. Right. That's actually a pretty cool idea. I had thought about that. It's kind of like the same thing as a participation grade. I wasn't sure how to approach doing a participation grade, but I like the idea of giving them a grade if you're paying attention. You know, let's see. Could you share resources for certification in Illustrator? I'm trying to get my district to approve purchasing them. Yeah, I don't really have resources for the certification. And what I do, oh, you know what I did? I actually took the certification test myself. And with every single question, I took a picture of the screen. Yeah. And then, so what I did was I saved those and I went through my screenshots and I said, well, this question is talking about this kind of thing. And this question is talking about this kind of thing, you know, so I wish that I could actually go through each question with them, but the questions change. You know, they randomize Photoshop and with Illustrator. We'll see how well that goes this year. But as far as getting your district to approve purchasing them, I don't know what to tell you about that.
You're CTE, right?
Yeah.
Did your advisors, so our issue is that our advisors in our advisory every year are like, we don't really see this as necessary. And our district's like, awesome, not purchasing. So I haven't had any advisors be like, yeah, that would be really helpful if a student had that certification.
Wow. So okay.
Oh, can I say something real quick? Okay, so
it.
we do the certifications, right? So we do 2 a year. So like I said, Photoshop and Illustrators for first year. However, we get funded. So I don't know if you could talk to your district about CAPE funding, because if they pass the Photoshop and Illustrator, they get funded for that. It's called a bundle. So, and also if you have students pass that bundle, you also get a bonus. You get so much money per student who passes the bundle.
And
so you want to
who's the funding through?
My understanding is CAPE, C-A-P-E. So CAPE funding. So I don't know if your district does it or your state. I don't know how that works, but we get funded, and so does the school. You know, our program and the school. So that's where our district said, yeah, we'll do it. That's why I still teach Dreamweaver. You know, because it's bundled and they get money and we get money. So that's how my program is funded every year. We get about $100,000 per year for our kids passing. So I get new equipment and can maintain all my equipment. So
great.
If that helps.
Do you also get CTEIG or no?
What, like
the CTE, the federal funding for CTE classes?
Like the Perkins and all that?
Well, it's similar. It's similar to that, but we get CTE. I don't know what the IG means. I wish I could tell you, but it's federal funding, and they give us about they give us millions every year. But I mean, we split up around the district, obviously. So I get like $50,000 to spend on whatever I want, and that's just for every single year. They give me another. Here's $50,000 more.
Yeah,
but that's CTEIG.
Yeah, not that I know of. I know we get grants like the Perkin grant, and maybe some smaller grants, but it's you know, across the district. So the money that I want to use for my CTE program is what, you know, what we earn from those certifications.
I see.
So that's how we're funded.
Did you research CAPE funding yourself, or was it like presented to you? How did you get into doing that?
Our district's been doing it for a couple years, well, quite a few years. So I just started, this is my 3rd year teaching. So it was already in place, but that's something you want to look up, is the CAPE funding and stuff.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And
have a
Terry
few
put in there, do you
questions.
tackle ethical
David?
concerns? Oh, I'm sorry, Marcella, go ahead.
Just a few questions. I taught graphic design for several years. Am wondering, I saw you're starting with Illustrator. I always started with Photoshop. I tried Illustrator 1 year. So one question is, how do you get them over the hump of, as a new student in this new class where you want to make it exciting? And then, okay, we're going to do all this vector stuff, and there's a high learning curve in the beginning. But I see that a lot of people that I trust and respect do start with Illustrator, so I'm just curious about that.
You guys may have another opinion, and please jump in if you do. I love Illustrator. I think it's easier than Photoshop. It's like tons easier. There are only like several different tools that you generally use in there. And so I start with Illustrator because it's easy, and we can do like low poly illustration and teach them some really cool vector illustration. But then I get into Photoshop in the second semester because it is more intensive and there's a lot more that you can do with it. Not with it, but I mean, different, but it's more intensive for me. That's just how I do it. And once they know Illustrator and they learn Photoshop, then they can kind of decide whether they want to use, which program they want to use for whatever project I give them. So sometimes it's specific, but
I will definitely say that I taught Photoshop first for a really long time. And this was the first year that I finally made the switch and did Illustrator the first semester. And I struggled a little bit with how to do it first, but the low poly is like so easy and so engaging for them. They love it. I have to like stop them from doing it later on in the year. Like, no, you can't do it anymore. And it was funny because we always start with Photoshop and then we do Illustrator and they hate it. They're going to be like a little bit more engaged in the beginning of the year anyway. So they were a little bit more in tune with doing Illustrator, and it was kind of the opposite. They hated Photoshop when we then got to that and had to deal with the layers a little bit more, but they got over that pretty quickly. And as you said, by the end of the year, I had kids who, really were in Camp Illustrator and some kids who were in Camp Photoshop. And so it worked out for me for sure, flipping it.
wait till they get to InDesign.
I don't do that one anymore. I did that for a yearbook for many years and I don't have to do it, so I'm not doing it.
Good. I wish I could do the same thing.
Can I ask a follow-up? Sorry.
Okay. No, go ahead.
Yes. So along with that, so I started to critique myself this last year. It was my first year teaching after a several year break. And post-COVID and cell phone use, really attention spans kind of went way down. And in fact, I started cracking down on cell phones, and I kind of like calculated that some students were missing the equivalent of a whole period a week. And so I'm trying to figure out how to deal with that. And there are a few ideas that I've heard people say before, but what in the end, it kind of ties in with the idea of how are we keeping everyone progressing somewhat at the same rate, because we need to some degree so that we can start a new unit, a new lesson, a new concept with everyone at the same time, and kind of how juggling the people who take longer. And I know some of them have access to use Illustrator and Photoshop at home. That was helpful. But a lot of my students, it turned out, only had access to Chromebooks.
That's getting them, the whole process of getting them to end at the same time is almost impossible. I have never in 8 years been able to figure that out. So this coming year, I'm trying something a little bit different. Every single year it's been chaotic. I have one project where we get some kids finish with great results like ahead of time, and then they're ready for the next project, while others are taking their time and just taking their time. So this year, I'm going to have milestone check-ins in every project halfway through, where I showed you my sign-off sheet, right? So we're going to go through those the different steps of the sign-off sheet and find out how are you doing? Are you meeting these, the sign-off sheet properly? You doing everything you need to do? And then, that milestone check-in is also to see how much further they have, to try to keep them in on time, because I'm going to have hard deadlines for, I would say probably 80% of the projects that I have. Sometimes I allow them to take a couple of extra days, but that's on a per student basis. But everybody's got to be done regardless of where you are in the project. You got to turn in your work and be done with it by a specific date. And that's what I'm going to do this year. And if it means that you get a lower grade because you simply didn't finish it, that's what happens. They all have the ability to do this work at home. And even if they have a Chromebook, well, no, I mean, not even if they have a Chromebook. Yeah. For those students that have Chromebooks, I actually have a couple of laptops that I can loan them. So, and they can spend extra time in here, as much time as they want in my classroom. It's open all the time, lunch, sometimes even after school.
Can I add on to that? So I know what happens with me and why some kids get so far behind is they get caught up and lost on something in the beginning, and then they're either shy and or can't get my attention, or something happens and then they end up, you know, wasting a whole class period or two or whatever ridiculous amount of time. And so an idea I had saw online, which I'm trying to tweak in my head, maybe someone has an idea, is doing like a red, yellow, green cup situation. And the green means like, I'm good, making progress, don't need help. Red means like, I need help right now. Yellow means I need help, but I'm able to keep working a little bit. And then I also, the idea of like, okay, like an additional color to mean like, now I can help kids. So if that kid feels good enough to like go around and help. Now I just see kids throwing solo cups at each other and them getting trashed and thrown away, and that being a horrible idea. But the concept is there, right? The concept of a visual way to look across the room and say, okay, that kid, how can I help that kid?
I love that idea. That's so great. I love that.
So I just, I need a practical way to do that. I don't know if like something on the computers, or I don't know. Did one of you guys have an idea of that?
Yeah, if you had, you know what, a little like a stand with a light at the top that shows like red light, green light, you know, that'd be awesome.
I'll chime in on that too. I found for my beginner level graphic design class, if I gave students all the parameters that the final project needed to have and just let them go, I almost always run into issues with finishing work on time, or they would rush to finish it and it would just be lackluster work, very clearly rushed through it. And I found that both through personal observation and from student feedback, if I provided benchmark deadlines for each stage of the project, they were much better at managing time and kind of understanding, okay, I need to spend the next 2 to 3 class periods iterating design ideas, refining those ideas and fleshing out just a few pieces, rather than they know what the deadline is for the final project. And so they think, I've got all the time in the world. I can just be on my phone and, mess with my friends. So setting benchmarks and deadlines for those benchmarks seem to help with them being able to self-manage their time and their cell phone use.
I can also chime in. I tried something this last semester, and I think it needs to be a start of the school year attempt rather than a mid-year, because I think I'd already lost too much ground. But it was and I don't know if I do it daily like I did this year, but at the end of class, as an exit ticket, they have to take a screenshot, and for every project they're given a Google Slides, just a blank Google Slides with each date as a slide. And so if I expect the project's going to take 2 weeks, then I will give them a 10 slide blank slideshow, and each day they have to upload their slide, a screenshot of their work and any questions they have on there, or any I need to start here tomorrow, any notes they have for themselves. For me, the challenge is I can't go through that many slides every night, or I'm not going to, which is where that kind of fell apart. But it helps if, my file got deleted. Cool, pull up the screenshot, I can grade it from that. Or somebody likes my camera, thank you. But it helps to have the I know one of our art teachers or 2D teachers does it where they have to take a picture of their work every day, even if they just like hold it up. I make them do it with their sketches. Okay, cool. When your sketches are done, take a picture of them or take it on your phone and upload it. That is your work for the day. And it helps them say like, this is what I achieved today. The challenge is I didn't really have a way to fold it into the grade book yet. And so I was a little unprepared for my own ideas. But it could be a part of the rubric. It can be its own assignment. If they don't do it, there should be a consequence, but I hadn't quite figured out, like, if they turn in a project and it's fulfilling the requirements, do you take off points because they didn't take a screenshot each day? How do you fold in like absences and, oh, I forgot last Wednesday. So I hadn't quite figured all of that out, but I think I'm going to do something similar along with benchmarks. It doesn't have to be daily maybe, but like it should be frequent enough that you can track their progress.
You could probably use like a Padlet or something like that, where you do it on I think they call it the shelf one, where they can actually have their own column and just continuously add in their projects, right?
Like one global one for the class and every kid has their own shelf.
Yeah, maybe.
You know
Just an
what's
idea.
really great about that too for the student is if they're putting together a portfolio to apply for scholarships or college applications, then they can include in their portfolio this process pieces that help support, like maybe they don't have a robust portfolio, but they can still show a potential college their growth progress.
Laura, sorry about that. Would you like to jump in?
I just said two things. One is I've seen the cup thing work, and I've seen the cup thing end in cups flying through the air. So a colleague of mine has you take a piece of paper and you fold it into thirds and tape it into like a little triangle shape. And one side is I need help, and the other side is I'm good. And so they just rotate it to whatever side is applicable, and they face it towards you. So you can look around the room and you can see I've got the help side showing up over here. The second thing is my whole school is built around this idea of independent learning. And so we do give them the deadline that's way out in the future, and they all procrastinate. So one of the things we've talked about is not framing it as not finishing on time, but starting on time. And work in progress, those progress checks. That is the only way to make it happen. And we have a minor category grade that's required in the grade book. So that's my work in progress checks. It's the only way that can happen. And I love the idea of the Padlet or the Google slideshow for collecting those, though, because sometimes you cannot get around the room. I want to physically check the screens, but I don't make it around the room.
Someone had a thing about cell phones. I last summer decided cell phones are the bane of my existence and I hate dealing with them. I panicked about it a little bit. And so I hand sewed camera pouches to go on the backs of my computers. I have an iMac lab. So they have that little circle on the back, but there's nowhere to attach anything that's not too heavy to knock it over. And so I sewed pouches that had little like clips on the side so I could like take them off to machine wash them. And it was a lot. I don't sew either. So it was good. It was quite a project. And then I fell apart because the first thing I do in my photography class is cell phone photography. So I kind of shot myself in the foot, and they're like, I'm just doing a photo thing. And you're like, okay. And I put it back in the pocket. I don't like taking ownership of a kid's phone. So like the pockets by the door or like the little shelves, I like don't want that. Well, my phone's not here. That gives me like the deepest anxiety. And so I had them put it, and it's on the back of their computers. The problem is originally I was going to do like cool, if it's not in the pouch, you're not marked present for the day because you're not physically present. However, then I stopped doing it. So that's my own issue. But I'd like to be more consistent about that. I think the biggest thing with students is that they just need to have their phones not physically in front of them. If it's out or in like anywhere in their physical space, they're going to be on it.
Oh yeah.
Even the best of kids. So it's got to be like out of sight.
When I started, I actually had the opinion of, I use my phone for design. Let's let them use their phone. If it's for design, why not? But that went south really quick. Our school has a policy, and the policy is we have these orange slips that if the student is caught on the phone, I give them a warning. And if it's still out, they walk their phone to the front office and leave it there for the rest of the day. And that's school-wide. Everybody does that. And their parents have to pick it up at the end of the day. So that has eliminated phone use in my class, period. Like, I don't deal with phones at all. I don't see them. When they come in, if I do see it, if on that rare instance, I see a kid, like, it goes in his backpack to the side of the room. All of them put their backpacks to the side of the room, and all their phones need to be over there. So that's how it's handled
Have you
here.
ever
And if
had
I have a problem, if I've got a student that will not go to the office and take their phone up there, I call up, the security comes down and walks them up.
Have you ever
And
had
we
a
do
kid
not
take the
touch their
slip and
phones.
not go to the office?
What's that?
Have you ever like given the slip and they just don't go to the office? They just want to for 10 minutes?
In all of the time that we've been doing it, I may have had 2 students given two slips total. And so both of them have gone up to the office. And if that's a problem, like I said, we just have the campus security go find them, and they take control of the situation.
I heard a
So-
presentation from I'm an induction mentor. So one of our inductees did her presentation at the end of the semester. And I think I'm going to try this next year with the phone, like putting it somewhere. She did the pouch in the front of the room where they all had to put it in there. And there was they came up with a class consequence for not having your phone or having your phone out. So like the kids would look and be like, oh, Johnny, your phone's not in the pouch. And they're like, no, my parents took it. And it's like, okay, sure. But if Johnny was on his phone during class, the kids would end up calling him out because they got to count Johnny doing push-ups. And it was Spanish class, so they would do it in Spanish. So it was like, we're practicing language skills.
awesome.
So like dummy phones or things like that. The kids are like, oh, score, that kid's on his phone, push-up time, or jumping jacks if the kid was incapable of push-ups, or like but it was an exercise based in front of the class. Everyone gets to count it. And the class was involved. She also had the SRO come in and like count push-ups and do it with them. So it was a group effort, but the class, she's like, it was amazing. The phones disappeared because the kids didn't want the humiliation of doing push-ups in front of them.
Right.
And so I haven't tried it, but it's on my list of things to try.
Wow.
One thing that I did this year, I was gone until I think March for maternity leave. So I came back then and cell phone use was just out, just crazy. And so, but what I did was the kids that were really not doing, like, I think D or lower, I just told them I had to have it at the beginning of class, that obviously they weren't able to manage their time. And I, at the beginning it was a lot, but then as kids caught up, it was less. And the kids understood. 99% of the kids were like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, you didn't prove that you can manage your time. So give it to me and I'll help you. Once you get your grade up, you don't have to give it to me anymore. And I had a couple kids even say, I'm just like, they got it up to a C and they're like, yeah, I'm just going to give it to you because I'm getting a lot more work done anyway. And I need to focus. That was only one kid, but, but yeah, that helped. I don't know if I'll do that for the full year, but it did help me in the pinch at the end of the year.
Nice. All right.
And I didn't present that to the whole class. I just presented that to the kids who needed it. And I printed out a little slip and I handed it to them. And so that way it wasn't like, everyone wasn't hearing about it. I just kind of handed it to them and they read it. And then I showed them a basket and they put it in and they went back with their heads down, but, but it worked.
Yeah. Nice. All right. Well, we're almost at the 2-hour mark. Thank you guys for hanging out. If we can still continue, I'm okay about it. If you guys have any questions or whatever, or if you just want to end it for the day, it is almost dinner time, at least over here. Let's see. Yeah.
Sorry, real quick. I just wanted to talk about, this has been buzzing around in my head. So if I can get some other people's opinions on it, this whole, project-based versus critical thinking based for assignment. So in the past, in college, beyond, and then now me teaching, it's been so like, here's your project, here's your instructions. But I want at a certain, what I'm messing with is, especially with the creation of AI and how that's going to end up changing the field, how do we get them to figure out what they need to do? How do we get them to think through what a project should entail? I don't know. maybe
that's-
I have too far of expectations.
For me, that's where the creative process comes in. Let me click this back on here. So, where'd it go? I think I closed it down. Sign off sheets. Yeah. So my sign off sheets, this helps them keep track of the order in which they need to do things to have a project come out successful. If they skip things, if they don't do the rough thumbnails, we got a problem. If they skip over getting feedback, we got a problem, right? So all of this, and in the real world, it's the same thing. You would absolutely have a problem if you did not look for feedback on your work and you just went ahead and just thought, whatever you're doing is perfect, right? So each of these steps are very, very important. Doing the research on the company, doing the research on, making a mood board. And so if you have them follow the creative process and get that ingrained in their bones about, how they do these projects, it absolutely helps.
Are those digital sign-off sheets or are you printing them for them?
That's a good question. I always print mine out. Yeah. When I have a sign-off sheet, I'll print this out for them. Because let me show you a different one. Some of them, like the book cover design one, will have a creative brief attached to it. So I've got the creative brief here, and then I've got the sign-off sheet. So what I'll do is I'll print this on a, same one page, two-sided, and hand it out. So I rarely print stuff for my students, but the sign-off sheets is something I print, and I have them keep it with them at all times so that when they're ready for my signature, I literally sign it and then they can move on to the next step. And that's how it works. If you've ever worked in an agency, that's how it works. You can't, the project doesn't move on until it gets signed off. I'm sorry, so go ahead.
How
Megan,
often,
go
sorry,
ahead.
how often do you check those, like, throughout the project?
Well, last year, I check it as I go around. It's just like every single time I go over to see, their progress, I find out how far they are. Have I signed off your sheet? I just check it as I go. But as I said earlier, this year, I'm going to set up a midway milestone check-in point so that I'll call them up, find out how are you doing on your sign-off sheet? How is the process going? Have you missed anything? That kind of thing.
Megan, one other option, this is my art department's goal for this year is working on developing an accountability, kind of like an assessment for the end of each project. So at the beginning of a project, you give a design brief, a project directions, however you format it, with the skills that you're looking for. So, at the end of this project, whether they're technical skills, creative skills, any of those things, you have those outlined for the students. They know what they're supposed to be doing. At the end of the project, we're doing it, I think, as a Google form. The only challenge with a Google form is that they can't go back and edit it. They can, but they have to finish and submit it. They can't get like halfway done and the bell rings. And so that's a little messy. You can.
Yeah, I think they should be able to now. I don't know if that
Okay.
depends on the district, but I know
Okay.
for my kids, they'll stop in the middle and be able to continue as long as they're
Okay.
the same.
I'll have to research that just to make sure nobody loses any data. But at the end of it, they have to either write or prove that they've achieved those skills, show evidence that you've achieved it, kind of essentially grading themselves. Which is the bonus that I just review those and in theory can grade from that. But the general idea is that the students can I was supposed to show my understanding of the elements of art, or at least 3 elements of art. Here are the 3 that I used, and here's how they impacted my design. And it's this accountability so that at the end of the year, when they're like, I didn't even learn anything, and you're like, do I need to go over this with you? They actually know exactly what they've learned because they had to prove it at each project. It gives a kind of pre-grading feedback, I guess is the right. So they should know exactly what grade they get because they're like, oh, those were the skills and I couldn't show number 5.
I do something similar to what Carolyn's talking about, except I guess the way that the language I use is to my students, I tell them I want them to write an artist statement, incorporating the language of design that they've been learning in class. And this helps. I hope, my hope is that it helps them understand and see, why are we doing this? You know, why does it matter if I know what the principles of design are? Like, what is the purpose of this? By getting them to write about it and explain, well, you know, my client, this client wanted a simple logo, minimalist style with geometric shapes. You know, they can start to incorporate vocabulary that they would be using in the real world. And that, I think, helps to strengthen their critical thinking. One is just the act of writing, I think, is a big positive in that role as well. But, you know, it's more than just checking off that to-do list, but like Carolyn's saying, they have to defend it. They have to say it, explain how they got to where they got to.
If anybody participates in Skills USA, all of those like weekly check-ins or even the screenshots or any of that kind of stuff is all evidence they have to have. They're doing one of the job exhibits. And so that's how I get my students to like make it to state every year, is by doing the job exhibit, and then you just follow the format for the notebook. But that's in Texas, so I don't know if y'all do job exhibits in other states or anything, but it is all evidence that they have been working on things. And then, yeah, once again, like if anybody loses their progress point, especially like sped kids, maybe they didn't save their stuff. Like, okay, let's just go ahead and pull up your screenshot. And like you said, I can grade from there, or we can kind of like tailor the rest of your project. If you're working in Illustrator, you know, and like, let's just work on a couple of little parts. And like, I love the check sheet. I think I found one of those online of some time whenever I was doing graphic design 2 years ago. And there are some kids who just can't make it over the initial hump of like, how do I get started? Or how do I come up with 5 pencil sketches or any of that kind of stuff? It's like, okay, you've already spent a week and a half on this, and now the project end date is in 3 days. How are we going to get you all the way caught up? You know? And so it is a way of being able to show that you are modifying your curriculum for some of those kids who have the paperwork, the IEPs and all of that kind of stuff too, by like physically walking over to their paper and be like, instead of doing 5, you're just going to do 2. I also have one of those old school desk stamps that says draft. And so I will come around to their sketchbooks or to their folder or whatever it is that they have those papers on. And every single day I will go through and like stick a draft stamp and then like initial it or put the date or something along those lines. Because those kids are not going to go and buy a rubber stamp that says draft unless they really want to on Amazon, you know, or something like that. But it's just like another way of me kind of like checking in with the kids and be like, let me see your progress. And so then it could even, you know, just still saying like, that is not a finished product, that's a draft. And so I think some people were asking earlier in the chat, does anybody do anything on paper? All my kids had to have a folder, but I think I'm going to transfer that to a sketchbook, and they will actually have to like put all their stuff and either tape it in at the top of the sketchbook or something like that, so that they can have like a running paper trail that stays in the classroom.
Okay. And by the way, whoever just came in, welcome. We have Kester, yeah, welcome. Just so you know, this is being recorded, and I will post this whole meeting so you'll be able to get the whole thing, everything that you missed. All right. I did have a request to go through Weebly, and what you're looking at right here is the interface for our design rescue. It is unbelievably intuitive. Now, I just have to point out one thing though. Weebly, let me think. So Weebly was just purchased by Square. So Square is the company that takes online, you know, credit card orders or whatever for shopping. So when you set up your account, when you have your students set it up, you can choose either a store or a personal account. They have to set up a personal account because the store account does not look anything like what you're seeing right here. In fact, it's worse. It's terrible. But right here, let's say I want to add something to this page. So here you can see everything's boxed up. You just come in here. If I want to just change the text, it's right there. You get this little bar to make your text changes. You can delete. If I wanted to delete a box, I could do that. You could grab the middle here and move it to wherever you want it to be on the page. It's just that easy. If I wanted to change the space, I could, the space between, I can grab this and go like that. Notice how it snaps to a certain distance. If you press shift, you can control that. All right, just like that. Really, really cool. Very easy to manipulate and understand. If you want to make a new page, you go to pages. Here are all the pages. Notice the way that I've got this set up. It's home, portfolio, request, right? Home, portfolio, request, make, about, and contact. If you take and request and move it, it changes its position in the navigation. See, just like that. Now you can also, if you wanted to make this a sub page of the portfolio page, for instance, there it is right there. Really, really intuitive, super easy. Now, if we want to make a new page, you click plus. You can make a blog page. You can make a product page. If you want to start selling stuff, or just make a standard page. Let's do that right now. So I'm going to make, this is a test. I'll call it test. And you'll see it appear right up here, test, right there. You can choose a header or no header. That's what that is right there. You can do all kinds of things. I'm going to hit done on that. And now I can start to add. So you go to build. I want to add, let's say I want to put a picture right there. Put it in and you click to find your picture. Let's do that one right there. I don't know what it is. There it is. That's the picture. Now, this image, you can also take and stretch it up just by grabbing this little square right there. And so on. Let's see, another one here. What I have them use for the portfolio page is not a single picture, but a gallery. So here's a gallery of pictures. That's this one right here. And all you do is take it out, drop it in, and click, and then add a whole selection of images. Let's do that. I'll add a whole bunch. And you'll see it'll just add. Come on. I don't know what happened. It is still loading up, I guess. Oh, no, it's still there. It is still uploading. I must have picked a large picture, whatever. I'm going to stop it right there. But there you go. And then you can adjust the look of this. Is really cool. You go in here, change if you want it to be 4 columns. So you reduce it down. I've got 4 columns here. You can have it be 5 columns, 6 columns, or whatever. Change the look of each one. It's super intuitive. It really is super intuitive. I'm going to get rid of this. Just simply click on that, delete, and back to normal.
Is there an upload limit as to how much content you can have uploaded to the site?
I have not hit that limit, so I have no idea. My own personal site, I use Weebly for my portfolio. In fact, let's go back over here.
Because Wix just put in like a 25 megabyte. It's tiny upload limit as of like January of this year, and it's crushing my portfolios.
Oh, yeah, no, I haven't seen any kind of a limit. And you can see if I go into here's the Scholastic logos. I just uploaded a whole bunch. These are all my work. And like I said, I haven't hit any kind of a limit at all. Let me get out of there. So there you go. It's really, really easy to use, super intuitive, free unless you want to, pay. But just go in, edit the site, and you're good to go. This one right here, make a contribution. I've got, I think, yeah, it's an external link that goes straight to my donors choose. So, and when you have what you want, you simply hit publish. That goes live, and let's go over to that page. And like I said here, make a contribution is an external link to my donors choose. And then request a design rescue. I set up I use something called Cognito forms. it is much better and collects all of the data, all of the submitted information in a database. So it makes it so much easier than just having somebody send an email from your website to you. So let me show that to you real quick. If you're interested in setting up a form and having it look good, I highly recommend Cognito Forms. Here it is right here. Build. So you can see there's the form that you saw on my website, and you go to the entries and you can see where all of the database, there it is. Going back to last year. And it looks like I've got 2 more requests for a design rescue coming up. There you go. You guys have any other questions? All right, why don't we call it a day? I'm getting a little bit of a headache from staring at my screen, so I think we need to call it a day. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming. I'm happy to do another PLC if for whatever reason, if you guys want to just have one just to talk about the advanced class or whatever, you know, I'm happy to set that up. All right. If there is nothing else, then let's end this meeting on a high note. Ready? Ah! Anyway, you guys have a fantastic afternoon. And thanks for coming. All right. See you guys later. Have a great afternoon.